Okay.
Alright. A game is not a puzzle to be solved, but a narrative to be told. Quote by Will Wheaton, a relatively popular actor. With the ever-growing nature of gaming, it's hard to ignore the surge of strength that board games have led to fostering a community of support. To some degree, we've all played a board game to some extent, and whether it's been the experience of winning or the pain of loss, we've gotten to enjoy playing a game with somebody else. And to understand the nature of what tabletop gaming has become, to take a look at its roots, the community's attitude, and the great impact they've had. Many people could believe that games have been around for a very long time. To some extent, probably a lot longer than most people would think. If you take a look at some painted stones that were considered dice from anywhere between 5 to 3000 BC in Turkey, all the way up to chess, which as we understand it today came out of 680 in Persia. Gaming over time has changed and evolved into becoming more about sharpening skills and learning and understanding concepts. And a quote by Benjamin Franklin on chess: "The game of chess is not merely an idle amusement. Several very valuable qualities of the mind, useful in the course of human life, are to be acquired and strengthened by it. For life is a kind of chess in which we all have points to gain and competitors and adversaries to contend with." And that is brought up by Jolin in The Rise of Tabletop Gaming. Monopoly, in the same way as it was originally created in 1904, was about the state of land grabbing and the pain that it caused other people. Even with such heavy regional and cultural tie-ins, games as they were created spread through generations and into an inevitable evolution. They evolved into becoming more of an experience rather than a win or lose situation, into something that, even referencing Monopoly, if you ever had more than 2 players, one player would always lose and be left out for the remainder of the game. Whereas games now, in reference to a game called Settlers of Catan, are built to be whole experiences where everybody continues to play until the game is over. Up until that, they have also become much more inclusive, moving away from the standard practices of just targeting single players, or particularly for older games, only men. They have moved to excise stereotypes and become a much broader range of characters. For instance, one game, Pandemic, actually was released with a female doctor on the front of the cover, which it's not something you would see 50 or 40 years ago. And with tabletop gaming on the rise, the culture's progressive attitude, it has begun to work in new concepts and new ideas into what gaming is. And with that development, a lot of it has become forward-facing, where with games like Pandemic mentioned, are co-op games, where it's not just one person wins or one person loses. It's the entirety of the group comes together to win or finish an objective. The same thing can be said with Settlers of Catan. It's made to interact with other players rather than just interacting with your own items. And this integration has also been pushed into learning, where a lot of times narrative experiences are used to tell a story or to assist in the learning with writing and speaking. And in that same vein, narratives have also been attempted to be utilized in building a narrative coaching game, where a study was used in an attempt to reconstruct what's called narrative identity, where narrative identity is your experiences in the past, present, and future, and how they relate to your how you assign meaning and purpose to life. And in the graphic that I have, you can kind of get a sense of narrative is how you determine what an event happens to you, how it corresponds to yourself, and that can either be positive or negative. And in somebody with a deconstructed narrative identity, that usually leads to things like depression and stuff like that. And that was what they attempted to fix with this board game. And from there, from narratives to even reactions with the religious communities over Gary Gygax's Dungeons and Dragons, over it being essentially demons, to today's removal of any kind of culturally oppressive themes, gaming has seen vast evolutions. And we've covered its roots all the way up to formation of communities and how they utilize new developments and learning. And these games represent more than just fun afternoon for those in these communities. They represent a sense of expression and a sense of comfort.
Excellent.